these are the elements you're going to need for today's craft. So, one of them we can find outside. So let's go exploring. We need sticks. Now, alright, there's sticks on the ground. You see, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick up some sticks. And that's a really easy way to do it. If you were working and you're a little bit younger, that might be the better way to do. Or, if you're a little bit older, you can grab sticks from a tree, like that one we could pull off if we need it, or a bigger tree. You can find the sticks that work for you. But again, if you don't have sticks around your house, pencils are going to work fine, because we're going to make, anybody guess? God's eyes. Yes. So, if that is a term you've heard before, awesome. If it isn't, let me show you what they look like. There's Owen modeling with the biggest God's eye I've ever made. I did that 1 year in camp. And so, thank you, Owen, for helping to show the size of that thing. It's much bigger than he is. Now, what is a God's eye? The idea of a God's eye is that God is looking at us, and that nature connects us, so God can see. Just like we have it where if we look in a cloud up at the sky, you know, it's the idea the sun could be God's eye looking down at us or connecting with us. But we're going to make God's eyes out of yarn and sticks. That's all you need. And scissors. Sorry. Scissors are helpful too. But you don't even have to. You could rip and pull. So that's sometimes fun. But we're going to use scissors today. So I want to show you some things about this bigger God's eye to give you some clues about the smaller ones. Again, it is yarn. This yarn, I think, was different colored yarn, and I cut it. You can use multicolored yarn, like we have here, where it just is going to go into a different one. We want to look at the back of a God's eye, because that's one way you know if you're kind of on the right path, is if the back looks like that. See, a God's eye in the front looks very different than a God's eye in the back. So you want this kind of like almost an eyeball-y look in the front. And on the back, it's going to go around our sticks. Okay, put that down gently. So I made you some examples in preparation for today. I'm going to show you how to do 2 different types of God's eyes. This is one similar to the big one. And again, look at the back. It's different. Okay. Now I'm also going to show you how to make one like this, where you kind of can jump out and be a little more loose in between. But it's still going to have that similar back. So, to get started, what we're going to do, sorry, up close. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our sticks. So we've got 2 sticks. You only want 2 sticks, that's all you need. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our sticks. I'm going to put them down on the table. Okay. And first thing I want to look at these sticks, I got to decide which stick should be the center and which should be the other. So I'm going to make a longer one. So what shape is that? Anybody? Adults and kids? Oh yeah, it's a cross. That is also the idea, right? That it's the cross, okay? So we're going to take our cross, we're going to pick it up, and I decided I'm going to make this one kind of look like this. It's a little bit longer on the one going up and down and shorter in the other. That makes it a Roman cross. So we're going to do that. Okay. All right. I'm going to put them there for a minute. I'm going to switch you over to looking at me for a minute, just because I've got to get these pieces in a way that you can see how they work, okay? So, see, these are here. All right, I'm going to take my yarn, and I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to leave it onto this bigger piece, okay, if you have that. Now, if you're working with ribbon, it should work the same. It's just not going to work as well. Yarn is definitely the best choice. Now, how do you start this? You don't want to have it be really loose. You're going to have to get it so it's tighter. So the way to do that first is we're going to take our little bit of yarn. I'm going to pull it tight, and I'm going to go over, kind of just, you know, back and forth across things. Now, what do I mean when I say back and forth? Well, I've already got it to enough that I can show you here. So see, I'm just going to go over these 2 like it's an X. Almost think of it as an X when you're putting it together. Okay, a couple times that way, and then maybe I'll turn the X on its side and go a couple times this way. You shouldn't have to do too much to get it to hold tight at this beginning. And you can go any way on the X. You could turn the X this way, right? You just want to start to get it so it feels tight, okay? Now, I intentionally left this little piece hanging. You can leave it that way and just cut it if it looks strange and loose after, or you can go ahead and push your finger and tuck it. See, pushing my finger and tucking it down in, and then maybe almost take one around so you don't see it, okay? And now look, oh, it's gone almost, okay? So the magic of crafts. All right, now we're ready to get the God's eye. Now you may have to do that a couple times, just enough that it holds steady, okay? And now what makes it a God's eye? All right, so you're gonna look really closely with me, okay? So, we take our piece, and we're gonna start on this one here. It doesn't matter whichever one you're starting on, just pick one, okay? You're gonna go over, and then under, and over again. Don't worry, I'm gonna show you that many times, okay, ready? We're gonna go over, under, and over again. Okay, all right, watch this again. Ready? Over, under, and over again to the next one. Now, once I start doing this, okay, when I turned it around, I almost messed that up. Once I start into this rhythm, let me just do a couple real quick so I can show you. You'll start to see you get really good at this. This over, under, over. You're going to start to get a pattern already. All right, now look at that pattern already. See, that almost looks like our God's eye. Now, I didn't tighten up the middle, and that's okay. One thing I will say, all of these are going to look different. All right, there's no one type of God's eye that is the same. Sometimes people like to go under than over. Some people like to do one different ways. Some people like to switch it up after, and that's okay. Well, first, we just want you to kind of learn how to play with sticks and yarn and make things that remind you about God watching nature. God's got its eye on nature, okay? So, we're going to keep doing this. Again, remember, over, under, over. Over, under, over. Over, under, over. Okay? Just keep doing it. Seems repetitive, but you're going to start to notice that you're actually getting something that looks pretty cool. Now, talking about how we do them, right? So now this one is starting to get tight, right? I'm choosing to do that. I can even push it in and make it a little tighter when I do it, okay? Really tighten that in. Or you can make it loose. Let me show you what I mean. Look at the big one again, okay? Let me switch you up so actually I can show you it easier. Look at the big one again. See how it's loose? I wanted that because I wanted it to be able to just kind of hang and almost look like a kite when it was done. You may not want that. You may want a really tight one. So just how tight you hold your yarn and stuff is going to make a difference. Now, kids, if this seems really strange, or adults, if this seems strange to you, that's okay. Like I said, everyone is different. It's taken me a very long time. I can do these in my sleep if I wanted to know over the years. But it's one of my favorite crafts. And I promise you, there have been some really interesting ones over the years that have looked better than others. Okay, so now we say we've got this, right? But now we want it to look, so over time, it's going to end up looking like this, right? This is a pretty tight one. See, I can move it a little bit, but not a lot. It's going to hold its shape pretty well. And that is just over and under, over, over, under, over, over, under, over, over, under, over. A lot of times. I think I made this in like 5-10 minutes, right? You can do it pretty quickly. Now, if you're working on one and you're like, it takes you a half an hour, that's okay too. Everybody works at their own space and pace, all right? But maybe you want to have it look like this, a little different, right? Now, the way we're going to do that is, so what we're going to do is we're going to take, before we go over, under, over, we're going to jump and do a couple quick ones, and then I'm going to start from here, okay? And see, now I'm down lower. I'm still going to go over, under, over to the other one, right? And I chose to have that mark. Now, you could do, if you don't want those ones down, you could just make a jump from over, under, over to over, down here, under, over, over, and make a jump, under, over, over, under, over, over, under, over, over, under, over. Okay, and now, see, when we start working on it now, it's going to have this space in between, which is kind of neat too. So let's try, cut a couple of those down and so you'll see how it works. Let me take it back to the way I can see it. For under, over. We'll find it real quick. And you're seeing a form start to shape, right? You're looking at it from the back though, because I do need to just see it for a minute so I can get it just the way I want, just when I show you the front again. Alright. And you'll notice that as I'm doing this, I just keep rotating it, which is really helpful. with smaller sticks. With the bigger stick, that's what makes that really hard when you pick up those big sticks in your yard. If you can hold the sticks in your hand, you're going to be much better off. That one I gave you was just to show you how to do examples. Now you can totally do tiny little ones. You could get little tiny sticks, or you can get big sticks. Now see, I've got that opening space. Now maybe I want to jump again, okay? So I'm going to go over, down, lower here, okay? And then I'm going to go over, out to the edge almost, okay. Alright, now I get myself another big jump in here. You see that? Now see all that? It's kind of neat. And it's going to look kind of cool at the end. So, now what if we get to the end, alright? Now, let me just put a couple more in and we'll say this is the end of this one. Again, this yarn is multicolored, but it's only giving me gold today, which is okay. You might have one that gives you lots of colors, and that's so much fun. But if you don't, then you could tie it off and keep changing it as you go, but that does make it a little more difficult. Okay. Because this is what you have to do when you tie it off. So you got this long piece here. You're going to chop it, okay? Because you don't want to deal with all that. So now you've got to decide how you want it to look. And I intentionally showed you two different ones here. On this one, I pulled it down longer and then I tied it off at the bottom. So it has this kind of like, almost a kite type string at the bottom. This one, I bet you can't even tell almost unless you look real close. You'll see right at the bottom a little knot that I tied. I'm going to show you how to do that, okay? So, I decided on this one, I'm going to start up here, okay? Make sure I have enough. I'm going to take it out like this, put my finger there, tuck it around, and make a knot, okay? This is the part that you might need help from mom or dad, or if you're adults doing this, it might take you an extra minute or two to figure it out. So you're making a knot. I would say do 2. Always do 2 knots if you can, okay? Now, I got this extra piece. I could use this, if I leave enough extra, I could use it to hang, right? If I want it this way or this way, but I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm going to take the scissor and cut it. And now, again, unless you're looking right there, you're not going to see it when it's hanging on a wall or a piece or anything with it. So, these are God's eyes. You can find out more about God's eyes online. Look them up, kind of have a chance to find out about ways to do some crafts with nature. But this is a really fun one. It's very simple. Like I said, you can use sticks or you could use pencils. You could find things in your own yard to kind of add on to it. You could use beads on it. Those are sometimes kind of fun to put beads throughout it. And you're going to use yarn is the best choice. But if you haven't got any yarn, you can use some other stuff too. So it's just a kind of a fun craft to think about how God is looking. So kids and adults, I want us to think about what God sees in nature. What is God looking at? Are there birds in your area? Are there butterflies? Even if you live in apartments, I bet you're seeing some stuff around. And if you live in a house with a backyard, why don't you go explore and see what you find in your yard that God's eye is looking at. Maybe there's some robin's eggs that have cracked and are around, or some nest in the area. Or maybe there's like a... let's hope not too many spiders, but sometimes it's fun to look at bugs, worms, right? Ants. See what is in your yard this summer, what's growing. Pick up a stone and look under it. We had a bag of topsoil down, and when I moved it, you could see a whole ant colony and a bunch of worms scurrying to get out of the way. So take time to see what God's got God's eye on that we may have missed in nature. So today's one's about a nature craft. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see them. Okay, bye.